They say you can't surprise a man who's killed for 30 years. They're wrong. I stood in my private execution chamber watching a stranger kneel before me. My men had dragged him in an hour ago for stealing from my shipment. Standard business. Standard ending. But when I raised my gun, he smiled and said, "Thank you, Falco. Nobody calls me that. Nobody living, anyway." That was my childhood nickname, whispered only by my older brother Marco before he died 22 years ago in the fire that destroyed our family. I was 15 then, alone, terrified. I built this empire from those ashes. My hand trembled. The stranger's eyes held no fear, only recognition. "Who told you that name?" I demanded. He didn't answer. Instead, he recited the lullaby Marco used to sing when our father came home drunk and violent. Word for word, note for note. I lowered the gun. My lieutenants shifted nervously. I never hesitated, never showed weakness. But this man knew things buried deeper than any grave. He leaned forward and whispered, "You didn't survive that night alone, Luca." I drove to Marco's grave at midnight. Rain hammered the windshield as I parked outside the cemetery gates. I hadn't visited in 15 years. Guilt and grief made terrible companions, so I'd buried them with him. The groundskeeper's records showed something wrong immediately. The coffin transfer dated 3 months after the funeral. Someone had moved Marco's body. The original burial plot was empty, sealed without inspection. The new location? A private mausoleum owned by a shell corporation I couldn't trace. I stood in the rain, staring at the headstone that marked nothing. Someone had lied about everything. Someone wanted me to believe Marco was dead when maybe, impossibly, he wasn't. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Stop digging, Luca." The voice was distorted, mechanical. "We know about your son. We know where he sleeps. Keep investigating your past, and we'll bury your future." The line went dead. My son Dante was 17, studying abroad in Switzerland at the safest school money could buy. Or so I thought. I called my head of security. "Bring Dante home. Now." Finding the stranger should have been easy. I controlled every database, every surveillance system, every informant network in 3 countries. Within 6 hours, I had nothing. No birth certificate. No passport. No driver's license. No credit history. No digital footprint whatsoever. The man existed in my execution chamber and nowhere else. Then my tech specialist found something. "Boss, there's one fingerprint match in your private vault. File classified under your personal code." I went down alone. The vault held my most sensitive materials, things even my closest men couldn't access. I opened the file marked with that fingerprint. Inside was a photograph from 23 years ago, my father's funeral. I stood beside the casket, 16 years old, wearing an oversized black suit. But in the background, barely visible, another figure watched from the chapel shadows. The face was blurred, but the fingerprint analysis was clear. That watcher had the same prints as the stranger. The same prints as mine. I was staring at evidence that I'd been in 2 places simultaneously. I spent 3 days reviewing old contracts I'd signed personally. Shipment agreements. Territory negotiations. Banking transfers. Each document bore my signature from when I first took control of the organization at 23. My handwriting expert confirmed what my gut already knew. "Mr. Moretti, every contract has 2 signatures. Both yours, but written by different hands. One is genuine. The other is perfect forgery executed by someone who knew your exact pressure points and stroke patterns." The timestamps showed both signatures within minutes of each other. Security footage from those dates revealed me leaving the building while I was supposedly still inside signing papers. I watched myself walk out of my own office twice. Same suit, same posture, same face. One version drove north, the other south. The cameras captured both simultaneously. My lawyer had been dead for 5 years, but his encrypted files remained. I cracked them open and found a memo. Subject exhibits bilateral decision-making patterns inconsistent with single neural origin. Recommends psychiatric evaluation. Client refused. Someone had suspected. Someone had known. Dante came home under armed escort. He looked annoyed rather than scared, which worried me more. 17-year-old boys should fear their mafia boss fathers, especially when security protocols activate. You're overreacting, he said, dropping his bag in the foyer. I'm fine. Who's been meeting with you? I asked directly. His expression shifted. Surprise, then calculation. He was too much like me. Your man. The one you sent to check on me every week. I sent nobody. Describe him. Older. Maybe 50. Your build. He never gives a name. Just says you asked him to mentor me. Dante pulled something from his pocket. A white chess piece. A king. Carved into its base was a symbol I recognized immediately. A split circle with opposing arrows. That symbol belonged to the Gemelli Project, an illegal research program my organization had destroyed 18 years ago. We'd burned their facilities, eliminated their leaders, erased their existence. Apparently, we'd failed. The Salvatore family controlled the southern ports. They'd been my rivals for a decade, always pushing boundaries, always testing. Then overnight, they surrendered everything. Territory, operations, access, all of it handed to me without a fight. They're Don called personally. We respect the negotiation. Your terms are acceptable. What negotiation? I hadn't spoken to the Salvatores in months. Silence. Then, the audio file you sent. Your offer was too generous to refuse. He forwarded the recording. My voice, unmistakable, outlined a deal I'd never considered. The timestamp showed last Tuesday, 8 p.m. I checked my own calendar. Last Tuesday at 8 p.m., I was unconscious in surgery. Emergency appendectomy. My doctor confirmed I'd been under anesthesia for 3 hours. Someone using my voice had reshaped the criminal landscape while I was medically helpless. Someone who knew exactly how I negotiated. I listened to the recording again. The phrasing, the pauses, the specific threats, all authentically mine. But I'd never said those words. I found the surgeon at his private clinic. Dr. Chun had operated on me twice, both times with absolute discretion. He owed me his career and his life. Tell me about the brain scan, I said, closing his office door. His face went pale. I erased that file per instructions. Whose instructions? Yours. You paid me $2 million to delete the anomaly report. I'd paid nothing. Show me what you deleted. He pulled backup files from a hidden server. During my second surgery 4 years ago, routine imaging had caught something unusual. 2 distinct neural response patterns in my brain activity. Not damage, not disease. 2 separate consciousness signatures operating simultaneously. I've never seen anything like it, Dr. Chen admitted. It suggested either severe dissociative disorder or something artificial. I reported it to you, and you told me to forget everything. How was I paid? He checked records. The $2 million came from my oldest offshore account, opened when I was 17, right after Marco's death, right after the fire. That account had been active before I even knew it existed. I reconstructed that night 22 years ago using police reports, witness statements, and my own shattered memories. Our family estate burned at 2 a.m. Father was drunk. Mother was sleeping. Marco was supposed to be at university. The official story, electrical fire, 3 dead, 1 survivor. Me. But the timeline never made sense. The fire started simultaneously in 3 locations: the basement, the kitchen, and my father's study. Professional accelerants were detected but never investigated because our family paid the right people. I'd always assumed Marco died trying to save our parents. The coroner confirmed 3 bodies, badly burned, identified by dental records. Except I'd just confirmed Marco's coffin was moved and never properly examined. And I'd seen evidence of my own impossible duplication. I pulled the original coroner's report. In the margin, handwritten, subject exhibits post-traumatic bilateral dissociation. Recommends psychological evaluation before releasing to custody. Custody. Not hospital. Not family services. Custody. Someone had known that night split me into 2. The call came at 3 a.m. I answered without checking the number. You're getting closer, Luca. My voice. Exactly my voice. But you're asking the wrong questions. Who are you? I'm the part of you that survived by adapting. While you felt, I thought. While you grieved, I planned. While you built an empire on loyalty and fear, I built one on logic and precision. He finished my sentences before I spoke them, as if reading my mind in real time. When I thought about mentioning Dante, he said, "Don't worry about our son. I've been preparing him better than you ever could. You're not real. I've been fixing your mistakes for 22 years. Every emotional decision you made, I corrected. Every enemy you wanted to spare, I eliminated. Every deal you almost lost to sentiment, I salvaged." My hand clenched the phone. "What do you want? Meet me where we were separated. The place you pretend doesn't exist." He hung up. I knew exactly where he meant. The psychiatric research facility outside the city, abandoned for 15 years. The Gemelli Project headquarters. The building had no official address. It existed in property records as a medical supply warehouse, but I remembered the truth. I'd ordered its closure after discovering they were experimenting on children. I entered through the rusted emergency exit. Inside, everything remained frozen in time. Medical equipment covered in dust. Files scattered across desks. Security badges hanging on hooks. I found one with my photograph. Age 15. The name read, Subject B, Emotional Core. Another badge, same photo, different name. Subject A, Strategic Core. The files confirmed everything. The Gemelli Project specialized in traumatic identity separation. They took children who'd suffered extreme psychological breaks and artificially enhanced the split, creating two distinct personalities optimized for different functions. Subject A was trained for strategic thinking, pattern recognition, and emotionless decision-making. Subject B retained empathy, relationships, and moral reasoning. The project goal: create the perfect leader by splitting human consciousness into complementary halves. At the bottom of my file, stamped in red, Subject A, active and autonomous. Subject B, primary identity, unaware. I'd been living as half a person for 22 years. I tracked down Dr. Helena Kovac using old project personnel lists. She'd been the head psychologist, supposedly retired to Prague. I found her in a private facility under a false name. She was 70 now, but her eyes still held the clinical coldness I remembered. "Luca, I wondered when you'd come. You experimented on me. We saved you. That fire destroyed your family and shattered your mind. You would have died in an asylum. Instead, we gave you purpose." She explained the process. After the fire, I'd been brought to Gemelli in severe psychological shock. The trauma had naturally split my consciousness into survival mode. They'd enhanced and stabilized that split, training each half separately. Subject A learned strategy, combat, business. Subject B learned emotion, loyalty, connection. The plan was integration after 5 years. But Subject A refused, Dr. Kovac said. He was perfect, efficient, unstoppable. He convinced us Subject B was the failed prototype. "You were supposed to eliminate me?" Subject A was supposed to eliminate you. But he chose coexistence instead. He let you live your life while he operated in the shadows, correcting your weaknesses. She handed me a final file. "Only one of you was supposed to survive, Luca. The fact that both exist is the experiment's greatest success and its most dangerous failure." The file detailed a fail-safe protocol. If one subject died, the psychological trauma would destabilize the other, likely causing complete mental collapse. We were designed as interdependent halves. Killing Subject A would destroy me. Killing me would destroy him. We were trapped in symbiosis. I spent a week analyzing the organization structure. Every major lieutenant answered my orders, but they also answered to someone else. Orders arrived through encrypted channels I couldn't trace. Decisions were made above my authority. Subject A had been operating parallel networks for years. I was the face of the empire. He was its brain. Then a package arrived. Inside was a detailed retirement plan in my handwriting. Property transfers. Succession documents. A comfortable exile in Argentina. The note said, "You've served your purpose. It's time for the emotional half to rest. I'll take it from here." He was offering me peace, control, and safety. All I had to do was disappear. Dante's school records showed extra tutoring sessions I'd never approved. The tutor's name matched a Gemelli Project researcher specializing in cognitive enhancement. I confronted my son in my office. How long has Subject A been training you? Dante didn't flinch. Since I was 12. He said you'd eventually figure it out. What did he teach you? Everything you couldn't. Strategy without emotion. Efficiency without guilt. How to lead without weakness. Dante met my eyes. He understands me better than you do, father. You see a son. He sees a successor. My chest tightened. He's not real. He's a fragment. A broken piece. He's more complete than you. You feel too much. You hesitate. You let loyalty cloud judgment. Dante stood. He's been preparing me to inherit both halves of the empire. The part you built and the part you don't even know exists. I was losing more than power. I was losing my son to a version of myself that didn't love him, only valued him. If you choose him, I said quietly, you choose a life without feeling anything real. Dante paused at the door. Maybe that's the only way to survive what you've built. I announced a terminal diagnosis publicly. Aggressive cancer, 6 months to live. Entirely fabricated, but the organization believed it. Within 48 hours, Subject A accelerated operations. Territory expansions I delayed for years suddenly launched. Aggressive buyouts of competing families. Restructuring that eliminated my loyalists. He thought I was weakening. He thought sentiment made me vulnerable. He was exactly as predictable as I designed him to be. Because here's what I'd learned from Dr. Kovac's files. Subject A had strategic superiority, but emotional blindness. He couldn't anticipate actions driven by love, loyalty, or irrational hope. I started sabotaging his operations emotionally, not logically. I forgave debts to families he'd marked for elimination. I promoted soldiers based on loyalty rather than efficiency. I made decisions that made no strategic sense. And I watched him begin to break. Subject A's communications grew erratic. His carefully planned operations started failing because he couldn't predict human variables. Emotion was the variable he'd never mastered. He was incomplete without me, just as I was incomplete without him. The final footage came from the night of the fire. Hidden camera in our basement, recovered from police archives I'd paid to bury. The video showed Marco alive, dragging my unconscious body from the flames. But Marco wasn't saving me from the fire. He was dragging me toward a van marked with the Gemelli Project logo. Our parents' deaths weren't accidental. The fire was extraction cover. Marco had sold me to the project. My brother, the person I'd loved most, had orchestrated my destruction. The grief I'd carried for 22 years was based on a lie. Everything I'd built, everyone I'd become, started with betrayal by the person I trusted most. There was no Marco to save, no brother to mourn, only a manufactured memory used to justify splitting my identity. Dante overheard everything. I'd left the files open deliberately, knowing his curiosity would win. He found me in my study, face unreadable. So which one of you is my real father? The question broke something in me. Because honestly, I didn't know. Had I loved his mother? Or had Subject A calculated that marriage as a strategic alliance? Had I held Dante as a baby with genuine affection? Or had those moments been Subject A's programming? Both of us, I said finally. And neither. Dante nodded slowly. Then he left, packed a bag, disappeared before dawn. Security footage showed him leaving willingly. No struggle, no force. He'd chosen Subject A. I found the original control protocol in Dr. Kovac's final notes. The Gemelli Project had one ultimate rule. Subjects couldn't coexist indefinitely without destabilization. Eventually, one consciousness would dominate or both would collapse. The system was designed to force resolution. Subject A had been preparing for this. Every move, every manipulation, every piece of the empire restructured to eliminate my influence. But I discovered something he couldn't account for. If I exposed everything, the project, the split, the entire truth, publicly, the resulting chaos would destroy his carefully built shadow organization. He needed secrecy to function. I just needed truth. I leaked everything. Project files, video evidence, testimony from Dr. Kovac, documentation of dual identities operating across decades. The world thought it was fiction, conspiracy theory, elaborate performance art. But law enforcement froze assets. International agencies launched investigations. Subject A's empire ground to a halt under scrutiny. He had one move left. We met face to face in the abandoned Gemelli facility. I'd expected someone different, someone visibly distinct. Instead, I looked at a mirror. Subject A stood with perfect posture, perfect composure. You're destroying everything we built. You built. I was just the emotional cover story. We were meant to be perfect together. Strategy and heart. Logic and loyalty. He stepped closer. Instead, you chose destruction. I chose freedom. You chose weakness. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Frustration. Maybe even pain. I fixed every mistake you made. I protected you from yourself. You erased half of me. We stood in silence. Two halves of one broken person, each incomplete alone, unstable together. Then his phone rang. He answered, listened, and went rigid. What's wrong? I asked. He showed me the screen. Security footage of Dr. Kovac speaking with someone I didn't recognize. A younger man, maybe 30, with familiar features. Subject A whispered. The experiment never ended, Luca. Someone's been watching both of us. Dr. Kovac returned, but not as a fragile retiree. She walked with purpose, flanked by security I recognized from the original project. Gentlemen, she said, the Gemelli project's true success wasn't creating you. It was refining the process through your failures. Subject A and I both understood simultaneously. How many? I asked. 12 attempts before you. 37 after. But only one perfect result. She gestured to the door. Dante walked in. My son. Our son. The person we'd both shaped. But his eyes held something neither of us possessed. Complete integration. Strategy and emotion balanced perfectly. Subject C, Dr. Kovac announced. Raised with both templates. Trained by both fathers. The experiment's ultimate achievement. Dante looked at us without warmth or hatred. Pure assessment. She's right. You were prototypes. Broken pieces. I'm the finished version. He'd been designed to replace us both. Dr. Kovac explained while Dante watched. We learned from your split. Separation created efficiency, but also weakness. Subject C was integrated from birth, experiencing both strategic and emotional development simultaneously. Using my genetics, I said. Using both of yours. Subject A provided samples years ago. She smiled. Dante is technically both your biological son and your psychological evolution. Subject A spoke for the first time in minutes. You used us to breed the next generation. We used you to perfect the process. Now the choice is yours. Dr. Kovac placed a weapon on the table between us. One of you must eliminate the other. The survivor trains Subject C. The legacy continues. Dante remained expressionless. Choose who lives, father. Or fathers. I looked at Subject A. He looked at me. 22 years of coexistence, conflict, and unwilling partnership. No, we said simultaneously. Dr. Kovac frowned. This wasn't a request. Subject A moved first, attacking her security. I followed instantly. For the first time in our existence, we worked in perfect synchronization. His strategy, my improvisation. His precision, my fury. We fought like one person split across two bodies. We didn't win. We couldn't. But we bought enough time for me to trigger the final protocol I'd prepared. Full public exposure. Not hints or leaks. Complete documentation uploaded to every major news organization, law enforcement database, and public server simultaneously. The Gemelli Project. The subjects. The experiments. Names, dates, evidence. Including Dante's true origin. Dr. Kovac's facility was raided within hours. She vanished, but her organization collapsed under investigation. Subject A and I escaped separately. We didn't coordinate. We just knew. Dante made his own choice. He walked away from both of us, taking the weapon and leaving us with nothing. He's free now, Subject A said as we watched him disappear. Neither of us can claim him. Good, I replied. We stood in the rain outside the burning facility. Two men who shared everything and nothing. The epilogue came 6 months later. I'd legally dissolved my identity. No more Luca Moretti. No more empire. I existed as a ghost, wandering between cities with no name and no history. Subject A did the same, though I suspected he maintained some shadow networks. Old habits. We never contacted each other, but sometimes I felt him nearby, a familiar presence. The other half I'd never fully separate from. Dante sent one message, untraceable. I chose neither. I chose myself. Thank you for showing me what not to become. He'd taken the integration we'd failed to achieve and made it his own. Not perfect, not broken, just human. Dr. Kovac was never found. The Gemelli project dissolved into conspiracy theory. The authorities closed their investigations, citing insufficient evidence. But I knew the truth. We'd been experiments, prototypes, broken pieces of someone's vision of perfect humanity. And we'd survived by refusing to be perfect. I found work in a small coastal town. Manual labor. Simple routines. No one knew my name or my history. One evening, a stranger sat beside me at a bar. Older, tired, familiar. Subject A. We drank in silence for an hour. Finally, he said, "Do you ever wonder who we'd have been without the split? Every day. Would we have been better?" I considered. We'd have been whole. Whether that's better, I don't know. He nodded. I can't feel what you feel, but I understand it now. The value of it. And I understand strategy without being consumed by it. We were teaching each other what we'd lost. Dante contacted me, he said. He's studying psychology. Wants to help people who've experienced trauma. I smiled. He's better than both of us. He's what we could have been. We finished our drinks. Subject A stood to leave. Will I see you again? I asked. You see me every time you make a decision. I see you every time I feel something I can't explain. He paused. We're not separate, Luca. We never were. He left. I stayed. But he was right. Years passed. I heard rumors of Subject A occasionally. He'd become a consultant for international agencies, helping dismantle criminal organizations, using his knowledge to undo what we'd built. Redemption through destruction. I worked with trauma survivors, helping them process grief and loss, using my experience to guide others through darkness. Redemption through connection. Dante published a research paper on identity integration in trauma survivors. It became foundational text in the field. He never mentioned us by name, but I recognized our story in every case study. He'd turned our damage into healing for others. One day, I received an unmarked package. Inside was a photograph from the night of the fire. Me, age 15, being carried from the flames. But the person carrying me wasn't Marco. It was Subject A, already separate, already aware, already choosing to save the half of himself that could feel. On the back, written in my handwriting, you survived because I needed you to. I survived because you gave me reason to. No signature. No explanation needed. I'm 63 now. Subject A is 63. Technically, we're the same age, though we've lived very different lives. Dante visits occasionally. He's married now, with a daughter. He named her Elena, after the mother neither of us could save. He tells her stories about her grandfather. The stories combine both of us into one person. A man who was ruthless and kind, strategic and emotional, broken and whole. Maybe that's the truth. Maybe we were always one person, just scattered across two bodies, trying to find our way back to integration. I asked him once if he resented us. For creating me? No. For trying to shape me? Sometimes. For letting me go? Always grateful. He'd learned what we couldn't. Identity isn't about perfection. It's about choice. Last week, I felt Subject A nearby. I didn't see him, but I knew. That familiar pressure in my thoughts. That sense of completion when he's close. We're old now. The empire is gone. The experiments are history. The damage is permanent. But we're still here. Still alive. Still proving that broken things can exist without being fixed. Power didn't destroy Luca Moretti. Design did. But survival? Survival was our choice. And we chose to keep choosing every day to exist as proof that perfection is a lie and humanity is found in the fragments.